Keelan had never liked the, this Godswood. She had been born a truly at River Run far to the south. On the Red Fork of the Trident, the Godswood there was a garden. Brightly and airy, there were tall redwoods spreading dampled shadows across twinkling streams. Birds sang from the hidden nests. The air was spicy with the scent of flowers. The gods of Winterfell kept a different sort of wood. It was a dark, primal place, 3 acres of old forest untouched for 10,000 years. At the gloomy castles rose around it, it smelled of moistest earth and decay. No redwood grew here. This was a wood of stubborn sentinel trees, armored in green needles, of mighty oaks of ironwood, as old as the realm itself. Here thick black trunks grew close together, while twisted branches wove at a dense canopy overhead, and misshapen roots rustled beneath the soil. This was a place of deep silence and brooding shadows. The gods who lived here had no names, but she knew she would find her husband here tonight. Whenever he took a man's life afterward, he would seek the quiet of the gods' woods. Caitlin had been atoned with 7 oils and the name in the rainbow of the light that filled the sept of Riverrun. She was of faith, like her father and grandfather, and his father before him. Her gods had names, and their faces were as familiar as the faces of her parents. Worship was a septon of censer, with a censer, a smell of increase, and the 7-sided crystal alive with light. Voices raised in song. The Tullys kept the gods' word, all as the great houses did, but it was only a place to walk or read or lie in the sun. Worship was for the sept. For her sake, Annette had built a small sept where her might sing in the 7 faces of the god. But the blood of the first men still flowered in the veins of the stalks. And his own gods were the old ones. The nameless, faceless gods of Greenwood they shared with the vanished children of the forest. At the center of the grove, an ancient weirwood bordered all over a small pool where the waters were black and cold. The heart trees, Ned called it. The weirwood bark was white as bone, and the leaves darkened and red like 1,000 blood-stained hands. A face had been carved in the trunk of the great trees. It featured long and Macaulay, the deeply cut eyes red with dried sap and straightly watchful. They were old. These eyes were older than Winterfell itself. They had seen Brandon the Builder first stone. If the tales were true, then they had watched the castle's grand walls rise around them. It was said that these children of the forest had carved the faces in the trees during the dawn of the centuries before the coming of the first men across the narrow sea, and south of the last weirwoods had been cut down or burned out of 1,000 years ago. Except the aisles of the faces where the green men kept the silent watch. Up here, it was different. Here, every castle had kept its godswood, and every godswood had a heart tree, and every heart tree its face. Caitlin found her husband beneath the weirwoods, seated at the moss-covered stone. The great sword ice was across his lap, and he was cleaning the blade in those waterworks black as night. 1,000 years of humans lay thick upon the godswood's floor, swallowing the sounds of her feet, but the red eyes of the weirwood seemed to follow her as she came. "Ned," she called softly. He lifted his head to look at her. "Caitlin," he asked. His voice was distant and formal. "Where are the children?" "You would always ask her that." "In the kitchen arguing about their names of the wolf pups." She spread her cloak on the forest floor and sat beside the pool, her back to the weird words. were woods. She could feel her eyes watching. She could feel the eyes watching her, but she did its best to ignore them. Aaron already in love, and Sanson in the charm of the gracious, but reckon is not quite sure. Is he afraid? Ned asked. A little, she admitted. He is only 3. Ned frowned. He must learn to face his fears. He will not be 3 forever. A winter is coming. Yes, Catelyn agreed. The words gave her a chill, as they always did. The Stark woods, ever noble as the house of its words, family mottos, touchstone prayers of sorts, they boasted of honor and glory, promised loyalty and truth, sworn faith and courage. All but the Starks. Winter is coming, said the Stark's words. Not for the first time she reflected on what a strange people these Northerners were. The man died well. I'll give him that, Ned said. He had swatches of oiled leather in one hand. He ran it tightly above the great sword as he spoke. Polished the mantle to glow dark. To a dark glow. I was glad for Bran's sake. You would have had him been proud of Bran. I'm always proud of Bran, Catelyn replied, watching the sword as he stroked it. She could see the ripple deep within the steel, where there had been metal folded back onto itself 100 times in the forging. Catelyn had no love for swords, but she could not deny that ice had its own beauty. It had been forged in Valerie, before the Durham had come to their old freehold, when the ironsmiths had worked their metal with spells as well as hammers. 400 years it was old. It was, and as sharp as the day it was forged. The name of it bore was older still, a legacy from the ages of heroes when the Starks were kings in the North. He was 4th this year, Ned said grimly. The poor man was half mad. Something had put fear in him, so deep that the words could not reach him. He sighed. Ben writes that the strength of the Night's Watch is down below 1,000. It's not only distorations. They're also losing men on raging as wells. Is it the wildlings? She asked. Who else? Ned lifted eyes, looked down the cold steel length of it. It will only grow worse. The day may come when I have no choice but to call the banners and ride north to deal with the kings beyond the wall for good and all. Beyond the wall? The thought made Catelyn shudder. Ned saw the dread of her face. Mace Rider is nothing for us to fear. There are darker things beyond the wall. She glanced behind her at the heart tree, the pale bark of the red eyes, watching, listening, thinking his long, slow thoughts. She smiled his smile was gentle. You listen to too many of Old Nan's stories. The others are as dead as the children in the forest, gone 8,000 years. Minster Luwin will tell you that they never lived at all. No living man has ever seen one. Until this morning, no living man has ever seen a direwolf either, Catelyn reminded him. I ought to know better than to argue with a Tully, he said with a rueful smile. He slid ice back down into his sheath. You did not come here to tell me Crip's tales. I know how little you like this place. What is it, my lady? Caitlin took her husband's hand.
There was a grievous news today, my lord. I do not wish to trouble you until you had cleansed yourself.
There was no way to soften the blow. She told him straight.
I am so sorry, my love. John Aaron is dead.
His eyes found hers, and she could see how hard it took him, as she had known it would. In his youth, Ned had fostered at the Erin of the childless Lord Aaron, had becoming a second father to him and his fellow ward Robert Barthanon. When the Mad King Ares II, Terrigan, had demanded their heads, the Lord of Erin had raised Ilsmurn and the Falkle banners in revolt rather than give him those he had pledged to the protect. And one day, 50 years ago, the second father had become a brother as well. As he and Ned stood there together in the sept at River Run, to wed two sisters, the daughters of the Lord Hoster Tully. John, he said, is this news certain? It was the king's seal and the letters in Rupert's own hand. I saved it for you.
You said... Oh, whoops. It was the king's seal and the letters is in Rupert's own hand. I saved it for you. He said Lord Aaron was taken quickly. Even Messrs. Polyseal was helpless. But he brought the milk of the poppy, so John did not linger long in pain.
That is some small mercy, I suppose, he said. She could see his grief in his face. But even then, he thought first to her. Your sister, he said. And John's boy. What word of them?
The message said only that they were well, and he had returned to the Erie,
Caitlin said. I wish they had gone to River Run instead. The Erie is high and lonely, and it was ever her husband's place, not hers. Lord John's memory will haunt each stone. I know my sister.
She needs the comfort of the family and her friends around her.
Your uncle waits in the vow, does he not? John named him Knight of the Gate, I heard. Caitlin nodded.
Bran will do what he can for her, and for the boy. That is some comfort, but still.
Go to her, Ned urged. Take the children. Fill her halls with noise and shouts and laughter. That boy of hers needs other children about him. And Lisa should not be alone in her grief.
With that I could, Caitlin said. The letter had other tidings. The knight is riding to Winterfell to seek you. It took Ned a moment to comprehend her words, but when the understanding came, the darkness left his eyes. Robert is coming here. When she nodded, a smile broke across her face. Caitlin wishes she could share his joy, but she had heard the talk in the yards. A dire wolf dead in the snow, a broken antler in its throat. Dread coiled within her like a snake. But she forced herself
to smile at this man she loved. This man who put no faith in science.
I knew that would please you, she said. We should send words to your brother on the wall.
Yes, of course, he agreed. Ben will want to be there. I shall tell Master Lurine to send his swiftest bird. Ned rose and pulled her to her feet. Damnation! How many years has it been? And he gives us no more than notice than this? How many in his party? Did the message say?
I think 100 knights, at least, with all their retainers, and half again as many freed riders. Cerisa and her children travel with them.
Robert will keep an easy pace for their sakes, he said. It is just as well. That will give us more time to prepare.
The Queen's brother also is in the party, she told him.
Ned grimaced at that. There was a small love between him and the Queen's family, Caitlin. The Lancers of Crestial Rock had come to elate Robert cause. When victory was all but certain, he had never forgiven them.
Well, if that's a prize for Robert's company and the station of Lancers, so be it. It sounds as though Rupert is bringing half his court.
Where the night goes, the
realms follow, she said.
It would be good to see the children. The youngest was still singing at the Lancers woman treat the last time I saw him. He must be, 5 by now?
Prince Tommen is 7,
she told him.
The same age as Bran. Please, Ned, guard your tongue. Lancer's woman is our queen, and her bride is said to groan with every passing year.
Ned squeezed her hand. There must be a feast, of course, with singers, and Robert will want to hunt. I shall send Joy south with an honor guard to meet them, and the King's Row the escort them back. Gods, how are we going to feed them all? On his way already, you said? Damn the man, damn his royal hide.